Upon Keanu Reeves's entrance onto the stage of Melissa Carter's show, the viewers anticipates another courteous, considerate interview with Hollywood's most cherished star, but Melissa is absent for she's being friendly, but there's a plan brewing in her mind. Camera manufacturers are finalizing their modifications. The questions are intentionally set to ensnare him, and the spectators have been deliberately chosen to betray him at this juncture. This isn't a formal interview setting. It's a surprise attack, but Keanu is ready for it as his countenance is inscrutable. Melissa smiles, is certain that she's on the verge of crafting a viral sensation this year, though. What she's unaware of is Keanu has already perceived the trap, and within a short time frame, in a few moments, he'll use it to his advantage. Before we proceed with this narrative, allow me to be aware of your viewing perspective and whether, if you find tales like this enjoyable, consider subscribing the channel due to the fact that tomorrow we will have. Here's another unique tale for your inbox. Keanu Reeves made his entrance on a Tuesday morning. He settled in his kitchen, enjoying a cup of black coffee. Sifting through his emails, among the typical film listings, charitable communications, invitations to events, alongside fan mail, are one. The subject line was distinctively unique. An open and honest discussion about the Melissa Carter observed Keanu's gaze sweeping across the room. The message sent by Melissa Carter, one of most impactful television personalities in America's renowned program, celebrated for its bold exploration of debated subjects, were known for incisive strategic inquiry, particularly with respect to conventional figures in Hollywood. Keanu wasn't unassuming. He was aware. He still took a further sip, despite this. Then, with a tranquil mind, he contemplated coffee. He typed his reply, taking a breath. I'd be warmly welcomed back at the Melissa Carter show. Producers from the studio gathered around, sketching on a whiteboard the ideal. Melissa found herself leaning against her desk, feeling trapped. Browsing her cue cards, he sees him. An effortless target. Her producer Jake grinned. Keanu Reeves, seriously, he's incredibly beloved. Melissa gave a dismissive eye roll. That's precisely how its success will unfold. The world observes him as a genuinely kind and respectable individual who is beyond reproach. However, Hollywood must progress. She emphasized the necessity for fresh stories, casually tossing a card. We'll depict him on the table through painting. Obsolete, a vestige of former times, a remnant of the past. A Hollywood best forgotten. Jake gave a slow nod, and if he continues to play along, if Melissa smirks, we'll guarantee that's the video that spreads like wildfire. On the day of his interview, Keanu stepped from his sleek black motorcycle, his bearing radiated. Remaining serenely composed, a handful of crew members murmured as he went by, eliciting excitement from some. Doubtful, even the security guard himself at the entrance couldn't suppress a wide smile, a true fan. Keanu Reeves offered a slight nod in acknowledgement. A member of Melissa's team acted swiftly, crafting the ideal shot, a producer's meticulous endeavor. Modified cameras were strategically placed to ensure the audience comprised the ideal assortment of individuals, certain devoted fans, while others are prepared to contest. Every aspect of him was crafted with the intention of creating the story, and Keanu effortlessly grabbed hold of his chair opposite Melissa, crossing. With her hands resting in her lap, Melissa welcomed him. Sporting a perfect smile, the red light illuminated. Keanu Reeves was greeted by the camera's flash, directly to the performance, and suddenly, the trap. Melissa subtly shifted closer, The mood is warm and inviting, almost too flawless. Let's begin with something simple. What are your thoughts concerning the future of Keanu, the Hollywood star? Offered a subtle smile. The same effortless, serene smile he perpetually wore, But it was a secret known only to Melissa, something no one else in the room was aware of. Neither the producers nor the meticulously crafted, the placement of audience members was determined by Keanu. Reeves had already discerned the truth, and within a short time he would transform them. This interview transformed into something they had never experienced before. Sighted upon entering the studio, everything was impeccably arranged. The lenses focused on Melissa Carter and Keanu Reeves, perfectly positioned. The subdued lighting mellowed Keanu's features, bestowing upon him the aura of a timeless archetype, a Hollywood legend. That was Melissa's aspiration. To dismantle her gradually, the producers were stationed in front of the monitoring screens, observing the feed with keen analytical precision. This wasn't merely an interview. Eyes beheld. It was a trap, and Melissa was poised to spring the trap. Melissa grinned, her expression radiating warmth. A smile intended to soothe and pacify her guests. Keanu, we are incredibly grateful for your presence. It's an honor that Keanu bestowed a modest. The pleasure is all mine, he replied, his voice. Even as the audience applauded gently, a sense of calm prevailed. The atmosphere remained pleasantly bright for Melissa. Inclined closer, you possess one of the most captivating professions in the film industry. You've embodied the spirit of an action hero, a dramatic force. An actor, even capable of playing a romantic lead, and nonetheless, people appear to deeply cherish Keanu, with a slight tilt of his head responded, Melissa laughed, chuckling and shaking her head as if she'd been fortunate. Perhaps it's just luck, but let's face it, you symbolize something highly particular and in a specific manner. A particular kind of Keanu's facial expression didn't convey traditional masculinity. He sensed it, the change, a distinct shift. Initially, Melissa maintained a cheerful demeanor. Hollywood's playful demeanor is undergoing a transformation. Keanu, we're observing a change in the nature of narratives being shared during the time of the invincible action, hero of unmatched strength. The quiet one seems to be disappearing. Stopped observing him intently. Do you consider actors like yourself? Do they still hold a position of relevance? In cinema's future, Keanu reclined. For a fleeting instant the room seemed. Even then, a smile graced his lips. I believe so. Narratives evolve, but core values endure. Melissa's smile flickered, reflecting Keanu's worth. Affirmed bravery, devotion, upholding, those correct things simply don't disappear. The manner in which we convey those narratives might alteration, yet the reason for our communication remains unclear. The audience moved subtly, Melissa. She realized she had to exert more effort. Melissa's smile became more strained as she turned. Using her cue cards, she bypassed. Enough with the pleasantries. It was time to move on to the genuine target, Keanu. You've portrayed several of the most recognizable action heroes throughout history. Newly introduced characters in the John Wick universe that are strong, bold, and commanding, yet not. The issue Keanu highlighted was Melissa, her brow furrowed, inched closer, whispering, "Don't you?" I believe these types of positions encourage an antiquated version of masculinity, characterized by exalts violence and retribution and a reluctance to expose vulnerability. The crowd fell silent. A few people offered their assent with a nod. Nodding in assent, others murmured their agreement. Between Keanu's and Melissa's awareness of rising strain, the producers chuckled that this was their defining moment, the soundbite that would encapsulate it all. Keanu reacted protectively when he was confronted with resentful or uncaring. Their content went viral. Keanu clipped it, but Keanu simply smiled. He looked from Melissa to the crowd. His face was inscrutable then, in the most serene and effortless manner, he spoke. That's a rather unique perspective. After a moment's hesitation, Melissa leaned forward. The entire room held its breath, anticipation hanging in the air, because the next In a matter of seconds, Keanu Reeves was poised to execute a flip. This entire interview flips our perspective. An oppressive silence blanketed Melissa Carter as she sat, ready and expectant, awaiting a slip-up from Key Reeves. He was tempted to delay his response, but he ultimately chose not to. Instead, a tranquil, effortless smile graced his lips, a smile that held more significance than, for 1,000 words, the audience was captivated. The producers anxiously awaited, holding their breath, and then, Keanu remarked, "That's a rather intriguing approach to—" He spoke with a steady voice, as if looking at it. Melissa, with unwavering composure, arched an eyebrow. He paused, anticipating his continuation, and then he did. "Avoid focusing on telling stories about bravery, selflessness, and defense of loving someone who is harmful to you. Is that okay?" Melissa's smile wavered ever so slightly. The crowd's reaction made it clear he wasn't on the defensive. He wasn't expressing anger. He was simply agitated. The question was directed back at her, leaving her to now grapple with it. Melissa responded with a soft laugh, subtly concealing her unease, of course, not the feeling itself, but the manner in which those principles are exemplified in Hollywood. To be frank, Keanu, a significant portion of your movies that revolve around violence, wouldn't you say? Keanu indicated with a nod that he believed it had an impact. Gradually, as though he were truly, after pondering her statement, he inclined his head. "Speak in a gentler tone, yet with unwavering emphasis. You feel that narratives ought to cease being depicted." Melissa's contemplation was interrupted by Keanu's presence. The expression remained constant because of eliminate every narrative that contains battle redemption, and indeed, even if violence is the only option, what remains for us? The audience murmured softly. Melissa's eyes fluttered. Keanu flashed another smile, as if to say, "That's not what I meant." However, there was a distinct sharpness to it this time. "So, what's your stance on Melissa's team?" Hid behind the camera lenses, this wasn't Keanu's journey didn't unfold as they had anticipated, contributing to the story that he wasn't rather than becoming ensnared in their scheme. He was requiring them to defend their own position, and as he talked more and more, the audience started to express doubts. Melissa's purpose seemed to be at odds with her crossed arms. Others shared knowing looks, and Keanu observed it. Did Melissa disapprove, and she expressed her dislike? Melissa, with a touch of insistence, coaxed another charming act from. Shifting in her seat, she realized she needed a smile to reassert control over the chat, so she changed the subject, turning to Keanu and saying, "You have always been held in high regard for your kindness, your modesty, and yet the abundance of your characters often depict men as problem solvers, with their clenched hands. Isn't that so?" Keanu slightly shook his head in contradiction. Why did Melissa's eyes flutter open, looking at Keanu? Continuing, "Are you suggesting that individuals who practicing kindness is something we're all able to do? Supporting others, a resounding success with the crowd?" Melissa's reaction was evident. She hesitated for an extended period. The producers were in a state of panic, realizing they urgently needed to. The screen went to commercial, but Keanu remained. After completing his task, Keanu turned to look at the audience. His voice remained composed and steady. I was brought up with the understanding that kindness and power and weakness aren't contradictory concepts. A moment of stillness that advocating for what is morally correct doesn't imply. Your aggression is a sign that you deeply care. Another moment of silence stretched out, and the energy in the room shifted. Melissa was certain Keanu had undergone a complete transformation, recognized it, and at that instant the equilibrium, the balance of power changed for Melissa's producers. Huddled near the cameras, murmuring urgently, they had to reroute the discussion aimed at reclaiming control, but it was too late, as Keanu had already taken action. The mood, and in the ensuing moments, he would push it to an even greater extent within the room. Keanu's reply was a quiet one, marked by calmness. Melissa's actions surprised everyone, anticipated reluctance, disappointment, perhaps even frustration. Even a defensive stance, but rather he possessed. She received nothing from him, only a slight smile, simply a solitary sentence, and yet somehow that heightened the tension of the moment. Keanu leaned back, maintaining a relaxed and composed demeanor. That's a fascinating perspective. Melissa waited, her eyes fluttering, as she anticipated his response. To explain his position, Keanu clasped his hands together. While we may be united, my perspective differs. Melissa maintained a composed countenance, although a twinge of annoyance arose within her. Even so, Keanu's voice stayed soft, but a sense of subdued heaviness lingered beneath it. If safeguarding those we hold dear, if defending what is morally correct is akin to engaging in a struggle, resentment towards injustice can breed toxicity in a person. Hesitated for a moment, then with a slight, almost imperceptible shrug. Then I relish in the toxicity. A hushed whisper spreading. A handful of individuals in the audience indicated their agreement with a nod. A few shared hesitant glances, unsure and fleeting. The individuals responsible for production, observing from the control room, booth paused, uncertain if this was what they... Melissa managed a weak chuckle, though it was clear she wasn't truly amused. She shook her head, deeming that a very poetic expression. Respond to Keanu, though let's stick to the facts. Skimed her cue cards, her voice, honing your filmmaking skills through the lens of John Wick. The core of Matrix's speed revolves around violence. An individual who resolves his issues by means of clenches his fists. Doesn't that convey the message? Keanu, perplexed, tilted his head at the incorrect message. Upon reflection of her statement, I believe narratives encompass more than just the events that unfold. The Melissa's face contorted in a frown as Keanu shifted closer. Perhaps a little forward is what's important. It's not about the actions my characters take, but rather the reasons behind them. Keanu let out a slow, measured exhale as if, selecting his following words with deliberation, I was brought up by a sole parent, the audience. Even Melissa, startled, found herself blinking in surprise. Keanu was startled by the abrupt change in demeanor. My upbringing was marked by observing her work, more challenging to observe than anyone I was acquainted with, watching her fight, give up, defend me, a moment of respite. She imparted to me that strength isn't defined by power inherently carries a weight of responsibility, advocating for those who are often unable to. Melissa took a stand for herself. She opened her mouth to reply, but he cut her off. Completed, and the individuals who instructed me martial arts instilled in me the same. The essence of true strength isn't about his eyes, filled with pain, met hers. It's about recognizing the moments when exiting the room is the appropriate choice. Melissa stood utterly motionless. Another chuckle escaped, but it was more subdued this time. The moment arrived when she could distinctly sense the forward motion. Keanu's changing demeanor wasn't aligning with the story she'd crafted for such an eventuality. He carefully took it apart, one piece at a time, while she expunged her. That's a truly lovely thought. Keanu, though, ultimately your films often revolve around themes of revenge and brutal violence. Isn't Hollywood's portrayal of aggression something to consider? It's time to distance ourselves from that Keanu approach. I pondered her words, then responded quietly. The entertainment industry in Hollywood needs to embrace authenticity. Melissa's face contorted in a frown as Keanu pointed. Viewers are not interested in watching John. People enjoy watching Wick due to their fascination with violent scenes. His voice was calm and contemplative. View it due to their comprehension of loss. They comprehend sorrow and they comprehend the longing to safeguard what it's important to have a break that isn't harmful, that is. The audience, human as they were, shifted once more. Melissa. She sensed she was slipping away from their grasp. Melissa's heart raced. She desperately needed to. Swiftly regaining control, she looked at her. Producers who had already been indicating a desire for. She needed to shift her strategy. This wasn't working. How their plan had been devised under duress. With a smile, she placed her cue cards aside and then she made a decision, one that would. She soon expressed regret, leaning in to tell Keanu. Are you truly convinced of that, or is it simply another typical Hollywood storyline? The audience exclaimed in shock. And Keanu just broke into a smile because Al Carter had just done something. Her most grievous error, yet the spoken words lingered, heavy in the air. Keanu, are you truly convinced of that? Or is it simply another screenplay from the world of Hollywood, destined for the audience, altered a few hushed, feeling the animosity in Melissa's tone was palpable. Those in charge of the production in the control room were inclined, observing intently. This was the moment. Melissa had exerted her will, and now they were simply required Keanu to resist, but he remained completely unresponsive. Keanu maintained a calm demeanor, his face betraying no emotion. After finding it unreadable, he softly exhaled. He let out a chuckle, as if it were a line straight from a Hollywood script, and then tapped his fingers gently rested on his knee, poised to. At this point, no. I don't believe truth. Melissa's grin became more strained. Keanu met her eyes, his voice unwavering. Managed, but I still believe individuals occasionally confuse conversation with the audience hushed in anticipation of the confrontation. Melissa's eyelids fluttered, and Keanu persisted. I arrived. Here, believing we were experiencing discussion. He cocked his head, a subtle movement, yet it felt as if you were searching for something here. Alternatively, Melissa gasped, and a few short breaths escaped her. Amidst the throng, this wasn't the anticipated outcome. She was obligated to take it, as she was scheduled to go. Melissa urgently compelled a rapid return of control. She laughed, but her laughter seemed weaker this time. She retrieved her cue cards and began to browse through them. She needed to alter her strategy swiftly. She needed to portray Keanu as out of sync with the times, obsolete, and no longer applicable. So she attempted a distinct approach. Keanu, you've taken. She smiled serenely, reflecting on her remarkable career, her voice taking on a saccharine edge, but the world of industry is evolving, wouldn't you say? It's the moment for fresh perspectives and new voices. Narratives, perhaps even the introduction of fresh perspectives, Keanu. Melissa merely arched an eyebrow. Continuing the conversation, there's been a significant amount of discussion concerning elder stars yielding their place to make space for the future generations, do you? Perhaps it's now the right moment to execute The audience fell silent once more. Keanu was the focus of some gazes, while others directed their attention to Melissa. Understanding the weight of what she had just suggested, she wasn't inquiring about the film industry. She was informing Keanu Reeves that his time had passed. This time, the trap was prepared. All that remained was for her. It was tempting for him to fall for the trap, but Keanu, he opted against it. Instead, he merely grinned, and then, in a voice that was remarkably serene, sent a chill through the audience. He stated that during my childhood, I was instructed that reverence for predecessors. It was absolutely crucial to take a break at that point. It's intriguing to observe how the concept of respect is perceived today. Possibly, the room fell silent, devoid of any sound. Even one individual's actions swayed the producers. In the control center ceased their activities, Melissa's smile vanished as we were doing. Attempted a laugh, but it came out strained. Because the sensation was undeniable, she knew she had lost. Keanu remained silent, his voice unraised, assaulted her, though he had only just begun to betray her. The whole argument directed at her, and that the audience's laughter wasn't directed at her. Now their focus was solely on Keanu, and several were starting to withdraw. Their mobile phone captured Melissa's voice. As she attempted to regain her composure, she glanced, with her producers poised, awaiting a cue, an escape route. But it was already past the point of no return, because even as Melissa was still attempting to comprehend what had recently occurred, the remainder of the world they were on the verge of witnessing, they themselves, due to that video, it was immediately gaining widespread attention the instant it appeared, the air, resonating with the finality of a symphony's concluding chord. An unexpected role for Keanu. The studio held a hushed stillness, the audience. Some gazed intently, while others leaned in, currently displaying their phones, documenting the instant Melissa Carter's. Her carefully constructed smile had vanished, bearing faltering for the first time, and in her own program, she wasn't the central figure. Dominance, and the most dreadful thing was her awareness of it. The instant the interview shifted to, during the commercial interruption, the harm had already been inflicted, executed within the control room by the producers. Chaotic shouts filled the air, orders barked urgently. "We need to make changes to this before it's too late, everyone." Have already begun sharing it as Melissa Carter's group was endeavoring to manage the situation. By then, the internet had already experienced a massive surge in popularity. Within minutes of being shared, the clip had been TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. Popular hashtags emerged. Nearly immediate respect is non-negotiable. Keanu remained unfazed. Melissa did not hesitate. Carter's comments sparked a massive online reaction. Keanu utterly demolished her in a single instance. He uttered the sentence without raising his voice even slightly. She stepped directly into the situation, believing she might ensnare him, and he caused her to appear as if this is the way a fool responds to an ambush. The pinnacle of real-time class, responded by meticulously analyzing each moment of the instant influencers weighed in on the news. Media outlets began reporting on it, and Melissa Carter found herself imprisoned within a benevolent sort. Her career was constructed amidst the fervor of a viral phenomenon, crafting for others within the studio setting. Melissa Carter's group was working frantically to get her. An assistant rushed to whispering with a sense of urgency. "Melissa, that clip is omnipresent." Melissa gritted her teeth, her jaw tightening in tension. As she took a sip of her water, a smile graced her lips. Intended for this interview with Trend, no, not in this way. Not with her appearing vulnerable. She had to resolve this quickly. The show was at stake. Emerged from the commercial break. The camera started rolling, and Melissa inhaled deeply, gasped for air, and managed a strained laugh, attempting to re-establish the ambiance effectively. "Keanu, that's definitely it." There was a lively debate. Keanu just. Melissa, with a smile, faced the camera once more. "Let's keep this conversation going. Remember to subscribe online. And also," it was already past the point of no return, as Melissa. My attempts to shift the focus were met with indifference. No longer for her, they were attending to Keanu, and at this point, words weren't necessary from him. One more, by nightfall, the word. The interview wasn't merely popular, it was controlling the news agenda. News outlets reported on it, dissecting the frame by frame. Experts analyzed and debated. In some instances, Melissa maintained her innocence, asserting she was simply probing the difficult issues, but others saw through her facade, attempted to lure him in, and Keanu, well, Keanu being Keanu, transformed it into a showcase of excellence in modesty. There's a good explanation why people adore This individual steers clear of engaging with these media platforms. Melissa Carter had a low opinion of his gaming abilities. She believed she could trap him, lost sight of who she was interacting with, and Melissa was forced to observe in real time. Asher's standing was irreparably damaged because at one point, she wasn't in charge of. The story was about to take a turn for the worse. Even more severe the following morning for Melissa Carter. As she stepped into her office, her assistant was there. Clutching her phone, her face was ashen. "Melissa, there's an issue we need to address, Melissa." She let out a sharp exhale, massaging her temples. The assistant then retrieved her phone. A fresh video had recently emerged featuring Keanu. As Reeves exited a quaint cafe, contacted by a reporter, the journalist, raising a microphone, someone addressed Keanu, asking, "Do you have any comments regarding the conversation with Melissa Carter and Keanu?" He simply smiled, and then spoke in a voice that was remarkably serene. He stated, with a touch of wonder, that gentleness is eternally enduring. No longer fashionable, the video. Melissa Carter's spirits plummeted. For in a mere 6 words, Keanu had expressed all that existed, and now there was an absence of everything she. What actions could be taken to halt it, Melissa Carter? Her gaze was fixed on the screen where Keanu's video played. Reeves had already exceeded the 5 million mark. Over 6 words garnered less than a day's worth of views. Only 6 words, gentleness, everlasting, becomes outdated, and now those terms, social media, was buzzing with activity. A fresh hashtag gentleness, has come to the forefront. Meme-filled victories overwhelmed Twitter with gift offerings. Melissa was met with a smile from Keanu during the interview followed immediately after the moment he uttered the phrase beyond the cafe's walls on TikTok. A trend went viral with people participating in heightened circumstances and reacting with gentleness is eternally fashionable, marked a cultural change, and Keanu wasn't part of it. Even in the digital realm, Hollywood took notice of the talents of actors, and some directors expressed their support for Keanu, while others offered criticism. Melissa was defended by others as a person of high caliber, stating that she was merely fulfilling her duties, but the public had pre-selected Keanu. Reeves aced the interview. He didn't simply, secured the conversation, and Melissa triumphed. Despite being on the opposing side, she resolutely declined to. She quietly captured her response in a recording. "In this video, my feelings are solely ones of respect. Keanu Reeves, although it's important to acknowledge that people misinterpreted that. I was just." As she carried out her duties, she paused, then provided her unique perspective. If individuals are incapable of, engage in a bit of constructive disagreement, perhaps. The real problem isn't necessarily masculinity, perhaps it's a surge in fragility, an endeavor to reverse the trend. She initiated the upload process and then patiently awaited its completion. Initially, her advocates expressed their approval, concurring with her stance. Keanu remained silent, offering no response to her query. What's with everyone treating Keanu like an inaccessible saint? Yet then the intervening as a result, she lost the debate, and currently she is accusing Keanu of being overly kind. Just in that manner, her scheme. The following day, the sponsorship deal proved unsuccessful. Retrieved her network, dubbed an urgent meeting followed by a new email. Arrived in her email, a pressing meeting regarding the forthcoming trajectory of the Melissa Carter program. Her stomach lurched. This was more than just This viral incident proved to be a career-shattering event. She was in a bind, with no options left in this territory. Melissa Carter fixed her gaze on the email, gathering concerning the forthcoming destiny of the. Her throat felt parched. Her empire awaited. In peril, all due to his actions. Keanu was Reeves's focus, while Melissa was in a hurry. Remained completely silent, offering no words or statements. In his interviews, He carried on with his life as though no events had transpired, and that fact alone created. It was even more difficult for Melissa since every time an individual attempted to pull him back into someone else just responded to the discussion. Kindness always remains fashionable. The internet had already collectively concluded that Keanu had. Melissa was simply delaying the inevitable. Their own demise that afternoon. A journalist encountered Keanu near a bookstore. Keanu, do you have any concluding remarks regarding the... Melissa Carter is seen in an interview, cradling a cup. After considering coffee, he paused, a smile then spreading across his face. With his characteristic elegance, he stated, I believe. Let's all make an effort to listen more than we say a straightforward sentence, but only once more. The video's widespread popularity was sufficient. Right away, for Melissa Carter, it served as the ultimate demise for Melissa. Sharp was the foundation of Carter's professional success. Intense interview techniques putting celebrities of Hollywood under the spotlight. She contemplated that Keanu Reeves would make a... She was an obvious target, and her initial assessment was incorrect. She dominated the flow of the conversation, steering it in her desired direction. Keanu Reeves to confess his depiction of strong. The idea of silent men had become old-fashioned, but Keanu... He declined the temptation and responded instead. With measured and tranquil tones, turning to the conversation resumed with her afterwards. He completely took apart her entire... During my childhood, I was instructed to attack. That reverence for predecessors, it was crucial, and it's fascinating to consider how. Nowadays, respect appears to be a matter of choice. Melissa sensed a change in the audience's mood. Lost control shortly after the interview commenced. Spread rapidly, with millions analyzing, every second, upholding respect is non-negotiable. Keanu's composure remained unshaken, a testament to his inherent kindness. Following his victory, another video of Keanu emerged. Exiting the cafe, I reflected on the question posed. Concerning the dispute, his responses always retain a gentle touch, the style that they transformed it into. Trending internet content, short-form videos, daily life, and Melissa. She, Carter, found herself trapped by the storm. The backlash extended beyond the digital realm, encompassing 3 major backers withdrew, leading to a sharp decline in viewership. The network required immediate crisis management on. In her subsequent episode, she tackled the, I apologize if my statements caused any disagreement. It wasn't understood as a genuine apology. However, it was the nearest she would come. It was irrelevant because the harm had already been done. Her reputation never regained its former standing. In the coming months, her program was gradually discontinued. Keanu, in the meantime, just continued forward because certain conflicts, not all wars are conquered through fighting. In the quiet, Melissa Carter attempted to. Instead of interring Keanu Reeves, she chose to bury. She and Keanu effortlessly demonstrated the most significant lesson of all. Truly, power doesn't require ostentation, it simply needs to exist, must be authentic.